Margaret Koolman here of Astrology.com. The chart for this Leo new moon on the 30th of July is quite complicated at first glance, but it resolves itself into an interesting shift. The first thing to notice, I think, is the rectangle. If we take Mercury at the beginning of Virgo, the sextile green line to Mars, both of them have trines, blue lines, leading up to Pluto at the top and Neptune Chiron in Pisces, who are also linked. So this is the rectangle. Some people refer to them as mystic rectangles. I'm not quite sure why. But the meaning of a rectangle is that although there are these oppositions, therefore energies pulling against each other, each opposition has two reconciling points that are trine and sextile to the two ends, so that no matter what corner you're on, which energy you're actually experiencing, you have a bit of a tussle with something and two ways of dealing with that tussle. The beauty of it is that it brings about consciousness, because we tend to be aware of the tussle. With oppositions, you can see the other energy pulling against you. Like the tug of war, you can see your opponents. With squares, these red lines, the 90-degree aspects, you can't really see the opposition. So it's a struggle where one can get quite frustrated. It certainly builds up a lot of energy, but it can take longer to resolve. So here's this rectangle, and the personal planets involved are Mercury and Mars. Mercury being consciousness, and in general terms, that which we're communicating about, and the style of communication generally. Mars being in Gemini, Mercury's own sign, says that the energy is involved in communicating too. But the style of Mercury, the style of the communication itself, or perhaps the focus of it, is shown by the Virgo just beginning, Mercury right at the beginning. Virgo is trying to get some order into all the pieces that have risen to the surface. Having spent the whole of July in Leo, it's as though we're certainly well aware of what we want for ourselves. A lot of positive expression, a lot of revealings, a lot of egos on the way up and on the way down. And then on the 29th of July, Mercury moving into Virgo is a desire perhaps to focus on what do we do about all that now. A desire to settle down to something which is going to work a little better than what was going on before. And I think with the Mars being in Gemini at the time, and the very close to South Node as well, it's the past history of communication generally, which involves the media, newspapers and TV, so on. The other pattern that stands out in the chart is that the new moon itself in Leo, and Venus not far from it also in Leo, has a trine aspect, the blue lines, to Uranus in Aries, a fiery blast of let me be myself, let me show who I am, let everything come into the open suddenly. Uranus is pretty sudden, and Aries makes it more so. It's a separating connection, so perhaps in that last week of July it was stronger, and now that we move into the next new moon's month, it's as though again we're dealing with something that has happened already, but it's still the suddenness, the shock, the unusualness, and perhaps also the openness to different solutions, change. Where I find it delightful is that Mercury has been in Leo with that revealing openness and suddenness, and now moves into Virgo in harmony with Pluto, Neptune and Chiron, who are trying to make these vast changes in the world anyway. So it's as though moving into what shall we do with the situation now to make it better moves perfectly in alignment with the way the changes are meant to be happening for us all. On a personal level, this shift of Mercury could mean that we have been actually focused on escaping from the work that needs doing, and from the 30th of July or the 29th of July we actually start to get a grip. At first it will work okay, and then we have Mars moving into Cancer on the 3rd of August, and from being able to purely communicate, it's perhaps family issues that start to rise, and it all gets a bit more emotional. The first connection on the 3rd of August of Mars is to trine Neptune perfectly. So at first it's as though we pick up the feelings that maybe we've been missing. It could be that we've been happily saying whatever we wanted to say, which could have been quite critical with Mercury in Virgo right at the beginning, and suddenly we get the flood of emotional response and then have to deal with it. The emotions could be ours or any other member of the family or even friendship family, world family. But it's that feeling of, I don't deserve this, I thought you loved me, after all I've done for you, those sorts of feelings that rise up. How could you? I need to be loved and nurtured. It's not fair. All these, I'm putting them like that. They sound childish, but actually the solar plexus, which the Mars represents, is where we keep these feelings. So when they get voiced, we tend to sound a bit childish. Now Mars is going to remain in Cancer until the 19th of September. So we've got plenty of time to work on this. And during that time, in fact on the very 1st of August, Mercury retrogrades. So dealing with past issues, absolutely. It retrogrades into Leo on the 8th of August and back to 18 degrees Leo on the 26th, turning round to come forwards again into Virgo again once more on the 9th of September. So in fact, although the new moon chart has the flavour of that Virgo, we do seem to have to dip back into the ego stuff once more and continue our search for freedom and a good time, which is very appropriate for a new moon in Leo. The contemplation follows. Let your heart expand up and out, feeling the warmth flood your cheeks and lift the corners of your eyes. Feel the radiance light up your space from every angle of your being. Sure, there are concerns, work to do, errands to accomplish, bills to pay, children to feed, and isn't it your thinking about them that pulls you down into worry and shuts the door of your heart? Practice letting your heart expand while dipping just the toe of your thinking into those concerns rather than jumping in. Hold your heart's brilliant radiance while concerns nestle in that awareness. There is no need to swing between the two. Feelings and thoughts are made of different stuff and can coexist most wonderfully, different, yet parts of the same picture.